Your niche is you, the human.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, oh, I need a niche, which actually means I need to stay narrow in something and just talk about football.
Yeah.
That's the reverse. You need to be as broad as possible, but fully you, which becomes your niche. That's me.
Okay, Gary, calm down. Let's talk about why picking a niche is the single most important decision when starting out, where so many people go wrong, and what you can do to analyze the market to pick the niches that will yield you the most success. I'm Quinn, an investment banker turned OF entrepreneur. Let's dive in. Smaller niches tend to be less competitive than larger ones, and if you're trying to break into the bigger ones without a group of people initially supporting you, you're not going to rank even if your content is as good as what's being posted. You'll be lost in the flood of input. That's why you have to target appropriate sized niches and use them as a ladder to build your pool so that you can target bigger and bigger niches. Be this on Reddit to PH, this method works really well. If you made 10 videos in a certain category, you'll start to be known in that said category, and people who like your content there will search for you directly. Now, when you start to cross niches, you'll be able to pull from several categories, and they'll help you hit a larger niche. The larger niches are the goal. They have more people, and therefore when you finally start ranking there, you can make a lot more money. Let's get into the good stuff. The most common misconception that I always see people talk about is to categorize yourself based on how you look. Find other girls that meet your aesthetic and post to the same subreddits, be it blonde, petite, or in my case, Asian. Everyone is doing this, and it doesn't line up with how people are searching for their content. PH releases a report called the Year in Review, where they go into the current trends on the platform. Personally, I've been reading these since I was in school. I remember seeing the differences in habits between PlayStation and Xbox users, and it was one of those interesting things that sparked my initial interest in economics. Today, I use it to help me understand the demand of the market. I mean, PH isn't a world away from OF, and OF doesn't provide the same data to analyze. Last year's reviews show the most searched for terms, and here we can see that the overwhelming trend is people are searching more for their kinks and sexual positions than for aesthetics. And this is even more interesting when you realize that you can only hit a finite amount of aesthetics, but you can hit infinite amounts of kinks. I'll only ever be Asian, and I can be blonde but not redhead simultaneously. So I'm limited to the amount of aesthetics I fit into. It's pretty simple to understand. But on the other hand, I could do Iago, spit, breathing, and a little nod to some fit stuff all in one video. The trick is that these niches need to synergize. If someone is into Iago, they're not going to be turned off by me including some breathing, dirty talk in the same video. But if I did something with scat, I'd probably annihilate 80% of my audience. So, start by making a list of all the niches you enjoy and could specialize in, and see how many you can get to work together. One last quick note, if you haven't already made an OF account, I have a referral link in my link tree below that will be offering guidance to all creators who use it. To be upfront, OF gives me a cut of their earnings of you, but I personally like this model because it incentivizes me to help you by making sure I only get paid if you're making good money. Now back to the good stuff. If you want to really get the best niches, you're going to need to do some homework. For this, I start by analyzing all the niches I had written down. To understand the demand, you could get a gauge of these by seeing how big their communities are on Reddit and what are the average views for both the top and most recent videos on PH. Then I use both Reddit and PH to understand the supply side too. How many new videos are being released in a day in these niches? Someone super into Iago will have already watched all the top videos already and will be checking the most recent feed to see what new or good content is coming out. A good niche will have demand and a very low supply, and even if you struggle to find that, you should end up with a comparative list that allows you to see which niches have a better supply-demand ratio than others and target your focus on those ones. One last thing to think about is something a little less quantifiable, but who is into your chosen niches? If you're hitting the ego niche, for example, is your demographic younger guys? And if so, are they going to be the people who can afford to buy your content? This is something I think about too, because maybe if you're hitting that niche, you'd have to set lower prices and focus on getting more people in. There isn't going to be a single pricing model that will best match all audiences, so you'll have to understand who your audience is and adapt accordingly. In a previous video, I talked about whether you should start your own OF, and if you haven't already checked that out, I'd highly recommend watching it next. And if you enjoy these types of videos, please drop a sub to help support my tiny new channel.